everybody.
Hi, friends. Well, from beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show today, Dan, it's Pride Month here in America.
Yeah, Gay Pride Month.
Yeah.
Not
Gay
just
people
anybody can have pride. If you have pride in yourself for other reasons that aren't LGBTQIA plus related,
sit down. We're not interested.
shelve it. Just shelve it for a month.
This is not your month. All
This
right?
is not about you.
It's about the gay people. Us gay people. So
Your various and sundry people in the alphabet mafia, as they call it.
all right. Coming up first, though, we do have some stories to talk about. Things that happened in the news, Dan, this week.
Indeed.
I want to get the show going with Lance Wallnau. And we've talked about
He's a
Lance
pastor,
before.
a megachurch pastor.
and prophet. Don't forget.
Oh, well,
he
it goes without saying. It's a great side hustle.
Yeah, he's pretty I think we could call him a Christian nationalist and Trump supporter. He's that type.
Sure.
If you don't know who he is. Well, recently he took to the internet and posted a lovely video of himself complaining about the new quarter. That's the 25-cent piece in the United States. I guess the 2022 quarter, they've changed the image of George Washington.
Oh?
Yeah, I didn't
know nothing about this.
I didn't know
I was
that
not
it's-
consulted.
I know, right? So George Washington used to face left, and he's in profile, right? And then they flipped it, so now he faces right, and they kind of cleaned up and the image a little bit, like the little ponytail is a little bit more pronounced, and like his hair.
Damn
just,
hippie is what he is.
I know. And he kind of just pops a little bit more than he used to. Well, they did not, however, change the position of the our national slogan, right? In God we trust.
Right.
It's still where it always was, over on the left side. Well, according to Prophet Wallnau, he says that that there's something up with this, that they've made George Washington turn his back on In God We Trust. He's no longer facing our national slogan.
That is horrifying.
So he says there's prophetic significance in numbers, in times, in signs that you would miss if you mock people like us, because there is significance in them turning the face of Washington, America, you might say, of turning its back on God.
Oh my God.
And then he
You guys,
proceeds-
it's still on the damn money.
I know. How much do you want? Right?
What more do you need?
Calls
You're
us all,
bleeding us dry.
he calls us all a bunch of dunderheads.
Okay, well, now he's
for-
just using foul language.
But that the country was actually turning its back on
Right?
on God and on Christian privilege and what have you. Yeah, it's truly remarkable.
But
and
there's
so
something very insidious about this, and that is that, like, when they go out of their way to notice something that's obviously stupid and that means nothing, they're heightening everyone's awareness of even a molecule that could represent loss of Christian privilege. They're making sure that all of these uptight, like hyper fearful Christians are ever vigilant for even the tiniest slippage of power from their hands.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
And it means that the battle is that much harder to fight.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is something smart about what he's doing, even though it's
though-
absolutely idiotic.
even though he's the real dunderhead here.
Frank, we don't use that language.
Well, and it's become interesting to see how much they are embracing they're not hiding their Christian nationalism at all anymore.
No,
Right? Like
they're not.
they're proud Christian nationalists. I like it's like, I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they changed the name of the Republican Party to the Christian Nazis.
We'll get to that. We got more of that coming up in a little bit.
All right.
It's not great.
Oh boy.
I'm going to take us to merry old England, to the UK, to the British Isles, if you will, where an astute listener sent an article from the Times there. And it's interesting because here's the thing. Virologists, epidemiologists, when they study, a disease such as COVID-19, they employ statistics to watch the spread and the replication of these viruses, and sort of how they track their numbers to see, if it's going to spike, if it's going to die out, what's going to happen to each of these various epidemics or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
And one of the things that they look at is what's called the R number, which is the reproduction number, which indicates sort of, how quickly it reproduces, how many, how many people one infected person can then infect themselves and whatever. Well, a statistician has been using those numbers a little bit differently, looking at churches and the way that they replicate. And it seems like the infection of Christianity is in trouble in the UK.
Oh, okay. That's good news.
Our numbers are dropping dramatically in England and the UK, to such that the Church of England and the Catholic churches, by how he looks at it, should nothing mutate, they could fall to zero by 2062.
Oh, the religious pandemic might be over, guys.
It's been a rough ride, you guys. Their R numbers are just over 0.9. I think to have successful continued replication, you got to be over 1 in an R number.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And those ones are they're pretty high. When you look at like Methodists, they're well under 0.9. Church of Wales, Scottish Episcopal, Church of Scotland, all of those are down sort of near the 0.7 range in their R numbers.
Wow.
And it is funny to think of it in terms of an epidemic, in part because it kind of spreads in a similar way. Like religion is about people infecting other people with their religion. So you've got the very virulent religions, things, like Mormonism has a very active spreading. It's got a very powerful modality of spreading itself. So, you've got some that are doing, and unfortunately, American strains seem to be more virulent than some of these older European strains. So
okay, yeah.
Watch out for some of those.
I mean, it's all the more reason to not answer the door when the Jehovah's Witnesses show up, right? Like,
well, they've been writing letters lately. Have you gotten a letter from the J-Dubs?
No.
I think since the pandemic, they've largely been writing handwritten letters. I think I've gotten 2 of them now. We just got one in the mail.
Oh my God. Yeah, I've heard about this. That's wild. But nonetheless, keep that stuff's contagious.
It's contagious.
Just stay away.
You need to immediately dispose of it, whatever it is.
Mask up. Get rid of it.
And then wash carefully afterwards.
Wash your brains out.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
The Archbishop of York is quoted in the Times as saying that that this way of looking at it was, quote, helpful and challenging to see predictions like this, but then said, the Church of Jesus Christ is not an organization that lives or dies by graphs going up and down.
Oh,
well, I hope you're wrong about that, Stephen Cottrell. I hope that graphs going down does mean that the Church of Jesus Christ will die.
Oh, golly. Well,
Yeah.
all right. They can ignore research and science and all of that to their own peril once again. So.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Dan.
Yes.
Oh, God. Corporate America is, it's a world I don't really know terribly, not firsthand, right? I've never worked at like a Fortune 500 company.
You're talking about our
like
dark evil overlords?
Yeah. Well,
the rulers of our country?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's something going on over at these Fortune 500 companies lately. And the Corporate Religious Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Index, or the READY Index, has been out measuring the religious inclusion at Fortune 500 companies. And they're part of a group that's promoting religious diversity in corporate spaces, is how they phrase it, right?
Okay.
However, on the ground, what this ends up looking like is, well, let's just take the case of American Airlines, which has received the dubious mention as the most faith-friendly of the Fortune 500 companies.
Barf.
And if you wander around their corporate buildings, you would see things like maybe a Jewish employee group meeting, or a Muslim, an ablution station. Do you know what ablution is?
I think that's where you wash for your prayers.
Okay. So there's an ablution station for Muslim purification rituals. There's you might see Father Greg McBrayer, a collar-wearing Anglican priest who is both chaplain and the chief flight dispatcher for the airline.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that a thing?
Yeah.
So, but
pick a job, Father.
Apparently there's a thing over at Ford Motors, who is also, interestingly enough, a sponsor at this year's Faith at Work conference.
Ford Motors was started by a guy who was so interested in faith that he, sided with Hitler about being pro-Christian to the point of eliminating the Jews. So
yeah, well, okay.
They've always had faith at the heart of their company.
That was a while ago, but for about 20 years, they've had sort of an interfaith network going on at their company. Cigna has many different religious celebrations, including Kwanzaa, the Yule for their pagan employees. They also celebrate the Zoroastrian festival Gambar Maidrarem.
Don't just make up ones.
I love it. That's the writer who made it up. And then let's see. Intel has 8 different faith-based employee resource groups, including one for agnostics and atheists. And Tyson Foods has over 100 chaplains wandering around. And it really just sort of begs the question for me of, well, why in God's name would you have... Well, it seems a lot easier to just get the Christian out, the Christianity out. Just remove the one problem that you have, right? Wandering your halls, rather than inviting in all of these other problems.
Yeah.
And it's
the trick being that corporations like to make sort of non-expensive nods to people's daily life to try and make them feel like they care about them,
right?
And so they do shit like this that doesn't cost them very much, but makes people feel included. But then you do it for one group, and suddenly, fuck, we got to do it for everybody.
And then all of a sudden, you're celebrating Yule, right?
Before you know it, there's Yule. I hope you're happy.
Honestly, I mean, it's a big company, but for what, a dozen pagan employees? And I mean, okay, you can't, if you're right, if you're doing it, you have to do it for everyone. And that's why I'm like, well, then do it for no one.
Yeah.
Isn't that the easier solution here of just telling your employees, leave it at home, right? We don't do like, I get it. People want to decorate their cubicle for Christmas, right?
They do.
And I guess as long as it's just your cubicle, but then no, that gets weird. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do. Well, I if it were me, yeah, I would just say, "Hey, guess what? You just have a very small group of rules where it's like on your group's day, X number of days a year, you can put out small decorations at your station,
right?
But not in communal spaces and blah blah blah,
right? But instead,
but then all the Christians go, "What? We can't decorate the whole office for Christmas?"
Yeah, and that's exactly
you hate Christians.
Yeah. So I mean, I get what the pressures are here,
yeah,
right? But like, just keep it at home. Like I don't know. And here's somebody who's totally guilty of being the one person who was like, pulling out the Christmas decorations.
Well, yeah, I don't know what to do.
But I wasn't putting up baby Jesus, right?
Well, thank God for that.
I don't put up nativity scenes. I put up garland and Christmas lights.
Right.
And little balls.
I mean, yeah. There's no way to win at this game. Like, if you're a corporation, there's no way to win, because if you take any expected thing away from the Christians, like we've learned from Lance Wallnau and everybody else,
right,
they will scream about it. Like 90% of the Christians in your organization won't give a fuck. They'll be like, okay, fine, that makes sense. And then there will be the 2 in your corporation that'll like go to the press and be like, they're discriminating against Christians.
Right. Like, why not let it be a reprieve? Everybody says how stressed out they are by Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Why not offer your workplace as a place where people can escape Christmas, right? Because it is awful. Christians themselves hate Christmas.
Yeah, but there's those 2 of them that just love it so much they live their entire lives for Christmas.
My mom.
They wait and they can't even wait until December. It's like October and they're like, I gotta put up a tree. I gotta do something.
That wasn't us at my house, but it was like the day after Thanksgiving. Right?
There you go.
But anyway. And then it was Christmas threw up everywhere.
Yeah. Yep. So. It just vomits all over everything.
Like literally, she would take everything. So she would have everything all boxed up for Christmas, right? And it was boxes and boxes of decorations. And then she would take everything down, all the pictures off the walls, all the knickknacks, box and store, all of that, and then redecorate the house.
Oh,
for Christmas.
Wow. There you go.
It was wild. So me putting up a couple streamers, I mean, it makes sense.
Yes, indeed. You've been infected. Your R rate.
Oh my God, Dan, you're right.
Was high.
I need. Is there an inoculation? Like, can I get a vaccine?
Yeah, you need to get something. See a doctor. Maybe there's like some antibiotics or something you can take. All right. Well, okay. So just a couple of years ago, I think we reported on Lutheran Bishop Megan Rohrer, who was the first trans bishop of the largest Lutheran denomination in the U.S.
Oh, okay. Which one is that? Missouri Synod? No, they're crazy.
ELCA. I'm trying to figure out what that stands for. The Evangelical Lutheran Church in America.
Oh, okay. All right.
And here's the thing. So yes, hooray! They're all very progressive, and they have a trans woman as a bishop. Well, maybe not anymore.
Oh,
she. So here's the thing. one of a bishop's jobs is to sort of oversee the clergy within their purview. And there was a specific clergyman, the Reverend Nelson Rabel Gonzalez, who had been accused, who was in line to be a bishop himself, but had been accused by more than a dozen victims of verbal harassment and retaliatory actions. He was just a bad dude. So Bishop Rohrer decided to, after a full investigation and blah, 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 decided to remove Reverend Rabel Gonzalez, from the clergy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Wow.
But remember how we said this was a very progressive sect of the Lutheran Church?
Uh-huh.
She did it on the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Oh.
She announced his removal on December 12th.
Okay.
Which is a date many Mexican Americans find very culturally important to them.
Okay.
And he was obviously a Latino person himself, and I think in a largely Latino congregation.
Uh-huh.
And it was considered so culturally insensitive.
Oh no.
That the presiding bishop has asked Bishop Rohrer for her resignation.
Oh, wow. Isn't Our Lady of Guadalupe, isn't that Catholic?
I mean, you'd think so.
Like
it's yes. It was a day in the 1500s, I believe, when the Virgin Mary appeared in Mexico to an indigenous man.
Oh, okay.
So yes, I mean, it
feels Catholic to me.
It was Catholic. I mean,
is it? So
that's
it's more
who celebrated it for the longest time, but then it became like sort of a function of Mexican identity.
Okay, so it's more broadly sort of just cultural, not specifically Catholic.
Yeah,
anymore.
I mean, most Mexican Christians are Catholic, but
we're talking about Lutherans here.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
I'm
thoroughly confused.
Well, just know that sometimes you can be too woke, even for the for the trans bishop.
All right, Dan.
Yeah,
this is good news. Ultimately, this is good news, which we don't always have on this show. A new Gallup poll is out on the topic of same-sex marriage and its acceptance in the United States, right?
Okay.
And this has been something that over time, obviously, Americans have come to accept more and more. And for anybody who grew up, when you and I did, it's kind of miraculous. Like, it's kind of amazing. Because, I mean, these numbers back in the 90s when Gallup first started looking at gay marriage and asking the public about it. So 1996, really only about a quarter of the public supported legalizing gay marriage.
Yeah.
And this is the era where we were hearing like about the Netherlands doing it.
And everybody was freaking out.
And it was like, they are so weird.
Yeah.
Over
what are
there.
those freaks up to? What's going on there?
But then amazingly, within 15 years of only a quarter of the country supporting gay marriage, we reached a majority level. We were over 50% of the country in 2011 supporting gay marriage. And then as just 4 years later, as the Supreme Court is basically legalizing gay marriage, we got up to 60%. And last year we reached 70%, if you can possibly imagine it, of Americans supporting gay marriage. And the numbers for this year are 71%. So it just keeps ticking up. But there are some holdouts, surprisingly, Dan. In a country
It's not
now
surprising. Don't say surprisingly. We all know.
in a country now that like largely supports this issue, right? Like it's just a given.
Everybody realizes this is hurting exactly nobody.
Yeah. Even the over 65s, right?
Yeah.
Who now the majority of over 65s in this country by a fairly large margin support gay marriage. Protestants became majority supporting or supportive of gay marriage in 2017. Republicans, the majority of Republicans now support gay marriage. That happened just last year. At least that's what the numbers are showing. But Protestant, Republican, there's a group over there that's still holding out, and it's all you have to do is attend church weekly. And that's it. That's how they defined this remaining group that is majority anti-gay marriage at 58% opposed. You just go to church weekly.
That's poison, I tell you.
It is poison. Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Instead of going to church weekly, go to a couple gay weddings. You will have a much better time, I promise you.
I know. I mean, this stuff just isn't hard, right? Like, just let people live their lives, right?
Yeah.
We would gladly just let you religious assholes live your lives in this country if you guys did the same for us, right?
Yeah. Just shut the hell up and let everybody have their thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't they just do that? All right.
I know.
Well, I mean, that's good news, right? I like that the majority, it's good to remind ourselves that the vast majority of our country, even because, one could be forgiven for listening to this show and believing that like half the country hates the gays and want to take away all their rights and whatever. And it's just not true.
Yeah. I mean, it's discouraging because we have this like small minority that has way out of or disproportionate control in this country and influence in this country, right?
Yeah.
So their position on issues like abortion and gay marriage, it's important for us to know what they're saying and what their position is. But, over 60% of the country supports the right to abortion. Now over 70% of the country supports the right for two loving individuals to get married. Doesn't matter their sex or gender. Like it's just like, this is the country we live in. We know that the country is more progressive than our government, and we just need to stay focused on that. I think, because it's hard, right? The news is scary and Christian nationalism is terrifying, but reasonable and rational people need to be standing up and running for office and making sure that you always vote in order to make sure that 20% doesn't actually literally control the country.
Go out and volunteer for a campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Get involved. Well, since it is Pride Month, and we're doing happy stories about gay people, I'm gonna ride that train. You've heard of the Mennonite Church?
Yeah.
Here in these United States and possibly other places. I don't know. It's a tiny little religious sect. It's part of the Anabaptist movement.
Oh, you just have to love the Anabaptists.
Do I?
They're so cute. Aren't they just adorable? They have like their own way of dressing.
You got to condescend to them for sure. That's what you got to do.
Oh yeah, sure.
But yeah, an astute listener sent this in. The Mennonite Church. Okay, when I think of Anabaptists in general, and when I think of Mennonites, I assume about as conservative as you can get. If you're wearing headwear from the 1800s, I assume that you have not progressed very far. I am wrong.
Oh, really?
The Mennonite Church delegates met. They sent delegates from all over.
It took a while. Did they travel in?
I don't think that the Mennonites. I don't think that the Mennonites limit themselves to horse and buggy the way others in the Anabaptist tradition might.
All right.
Fair enough. So they met in Kansas City, Missouri. They voted at this congregation. I don't know what they call their group.
Okay. A gathering.
At the gathering, yes, indeed. They had two big changes. The first is that they voted 404 to 84, that's 82.8%, in favor of retiring membership guidelines. So basically, they have membership guidelines that are about sort of straight-only sort of stuff. Oh. And they are now affirming LGBTQ people and committing to a much more inclusive thing, including taking language out of the sort of the documents that guide the clergy, saying that they are not allowed to perform same-sex marriages. Well, they are now.
What?
And
okay, yeah. Here's what I think's going on. Apparently, Mennonites don't go to church every week.
Right? Yeah. I mean, the hint was in the name. If you're calling yourself Mennonites, it's raining Mennonites. Hallelujah, it's rain. So there you go.
I need that music video.
Right? Oh my gosh. So who would have thunk? I know so little about Mennonites, but I gotta say, did not see this coming.
Well, do you know who's a famous Mennonite?
No.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh. For a brief moment, I thought you were going to say Malcolm X, and I was going to take issue. I was going to.
Yeah, no.
I don't believe that's true.
Decidedly not. No, Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Look it up. That's wild. I was like, really? Huh.
There you go. So I have to go dispel myself of a bunch of myths about the Mennonite church, but well done them. And happy Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride.
You never know what's going to happen on Pride Month. Wackiness can ensue. Dogs and cats, Mennonites living together, mass hysteria. Well, if you grew up in a crazy religion that I have wild misconceptions about, and you want to tell me about it, please feel free to write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. There is more show coming up.
Frank, you've mentioned it a couple times on today's show.
Oh.
You've used the phrase Christian nationalists or Christian nationalism.
I hate this thing.
It's a bad thing. It's technically what the Nazis were.
Yeah.
They were Christian nationalists also.
Yeah.
We should be they called themselves National Socialists, but they weren't socialist at all. So what were they? Yeah. And, for a while there, we were able to use that term Christian nationalist and feel confident that everyone understood that that's, a bad thing and that people shouldn't be one of those. You can be Christian. Nationalism as a concept is a bad thing in an international world. In a world where we are all dependent on each other. Nationalism is a terrible thing. But it's also because it's always sort of hinged on one group in the nation being important and being privileged over all the other ones, and the other ones kind of getting shit on. So in India, Hindu nationalism is a bad thing. And here, Christian nationalism is a bad thing, unless you want to you take the side of one Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, you never want to do that.
You never want to do that. If you find yourself agreeing with her, question everything. So we're going to play a clip from her. This is not her talking about meat grown in a peach tree dish, which she did recently.
Shut up.
She was very concerned about Bill Gates trying to force us all to eat meat grown in a peach tree dish.
I mean,
she pronounced it very clearly.
I mean, God, I hate peach tree dishes too. So,
how do you get a tree in a dish? It's not even. It's
actually
very
a
difficult.
peach tree. It kind of sounds cute, kind of folksy.
It is a little cute.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's what Marjorie Taylor Greene has to say about Christian nationalism.
If Christian nationalism is something to be scared of, they're lying to you. And they're lying to you on purpose, because that is exactly the temperature change that is happening in America today, and they can't control it. They can't control it, and that's what terrifies them the most. You see, if we're going to label it Christian nationalism, this movement will actually be the movement that stops the school shootings. This will be the movement that stops the crime in our streets. This will be the movement that stops the sexual immorality and teaches children and brings them up in traditional families and loving homes. This will be the movement that protects kids' innocence and nurtures them into responsible adults that grow up to be successful moms and dads wanting to pursue a family of their own. This will be the movement that finally does something about our debt, because it's something that all of us should be ashamed of. It should have never happened. This will be the movement that cares about broken and lost communities, communities that are always forgotten about. Christians should never forget about those people, and we don't. So while the media is going to lie about you and label Christian nationalism, and they're probably going to call it domestic terrorism, I'm going to tell you right now, they're the liars. And if anybody's a domestic terrorist, it's the radical left. They are the domestic terrorist. We could even say the Democrats are the domestic terrorists, because they funded them and they burned down our city streets and rioted in 2020. So if we're going to put labels on people, we should put labels where they appropriately belong, not on Christians and not on people who love their country and want to take care of it.
She's got a lot of very good points.
Whoa. Yeah. There's a lot going.
There was a lot in that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught it. She said that we're terrified of their Christian nationalism, and she's right about that.
Yeah.
I'll give her that.
And here's the deal. We were terrified of you before you started calling yourselves Christian nationalists, and we'll be terrified after.
I'm more terrified now. Now that they're owning the phrase, I'm not okay with that.
Well, yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ.
And I love that they think that they're going to stop, that she thinks that Christianity is what's going to stop the school shootings and whatever.
I mean,
just never, ever bothering to keep in mind who the school shooters were, what religious tradition they were raised with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
Almost
The Handmaid's Tale doesn't really cover it. I would be interested to know the number of school shootings in Gilead, because that's what they want.
Yeah. I think
and a totalitarian
Atwood missed that one. She was prescient about a few things, but missed the school shooting aspect of it. I don't know how that slipped her attention.
Yeah, no, but like, Jesus Christ. And apparently labels just are bad. Did you catch that?
I love
if you're gonna put labels on things.
Yeah. I love the whole, well, they're gonna call us domestic terrorists just because we're shooting people and actually committing murders. When they're the real domestic terrorists, they started a few fires once. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we had some folks call into us. So we'll get to that. JSP wanted to write in. This is on the topic of sort of the unwanted prayers that are inflicted on us poor, unsuspecting non-believers when we go to the hospitals and whatever. JSP wrote, I just think of it as being preyed upon. Don't put up with it.
Like Prey.
You got it. It's a play on words.
Yeah.
There you go. I don't see it as particularly predatory, but it is it's annoying. So
Yeah.
feel free to decline. Chris wrote into us to say, "Hi, Frank and Dan." So you'll recall, Frank, that we talked about religion and how it provides a very singular and unique sort of place of trust, where that trust can be abused and people can be hurt. So Chris says, "Hi, Frank and Dan. Vulnerability that can and is systemically exploited is not unique to religion. It's happening in social work, care for elderly and people with disabilities, and school settings too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's the element of eternal life/damnation that the church uses to keep people quiet. But for many secular folk, the undeserved shame can still be as strong a deterrent to speak out against abusers." On that note, Frank, I think that for the genuine good guy pastors, the motivation to become one is probably similar to people becoming a social or care workers. They feel it's a position where they can do good. Ironically, the same field that also suffers from a lot of abuse. So I think it is a power issue. The only difference I can see is that some people seem more willing to forgive pastors than secular offenders, and it should be the opposite. Hope this makes sense. I don't know that you should forgive anybody, really, who
Abuses power
a position of power and
in that way.
and abuses humans.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that's an interesting point. That's a good point. Yeah, when there are people in a vulnerable position and then people in a position of power, especially when there's a trust there, bad things can happen. So be on the lookout. We had someone call into us, did we not?
We did indeed, Dan. This is a listener who has some things to, just sort of say about the show, but is specifically responding to a conversation that we had in a recent episode. And then he has a question for us that's kind of fun.
Okay.
Hey, Frank and Dan. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the lovely show that you guys bring to us listeners every week. It is so nice to be able to listen to you guys, and I'm very happy to become a patron recently. I recently listened to episode 546, and you guys were talking about space, and towards the end about how space is so mind-blowing, and I just love space facts. And I was learning about astronomy and space and all that stuff, physics, and just little bits here and there, and I'm happy to hear that you guys like that too. I wanted to ask one question, since our galaxy, the Milky Way, is heading towards the Andromeda galaxy, and billions of years later, it'll eventually merge. What name do you guys think should be the name of that new galaxy? Thank you very much again. I appreciate you both, and I appreciate all the other supporters that help you guys out. Thank you very much. Hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Well, first, thank you for your support. We appreciate that. In terms of, do we as podcasters get to name new mega galaxies? Is that one of the perks?
It's exciting. I love the idea. Let's see. Andromeda was Milky Way.
Was a Greek mythological character. I don't know anything about her. One wishes to avoid combining Milky and a mythological woman. I'm not sure what to do about that, you guys.
All right. I figured somebody had to have already named this thing, so I looked it up.
Okay.
And while I don't think there's an official name yet, there are some nicknames that people are throwing around. Milkomeda.
No, wrong. Absolutely out of the question.
Milkdromeda.
Gross.
Yeah, those are the only two that are on Wikipedia. I don't know. It's exciting though.
It could be Andromeda Way.
Andromeda Way. Oh.
Here's the truth. I don't think we as a species are going to have to worry about that one. I don't think we're going to be around.
Oh, in like 4 or 5 billion years?
I just think that's a bridge we can probably cross when we get to it.
You have such a low opinion of humans.
I really do. In point of fact. But
so,
yeah,
so it doesn't really matter what we end up calling it.
I think it's unlikely that that will be an issue that we as a species will have to deal with. So
so no suggestions really.
No notes. Currently no notes on that one. All right. And finally we had an anonymous, can't say the word, an anonymous listener write into us. Hey, Frank and Dan, I was catching up on some episodes and got to your section on license plates.
Ah, yes.
I recently moved to Florida, and to my shock and amazement, you need more documentation and money to register your car than it takes to get a gun in the state.
Well, yeah, of course. Isn't that like everywhere?
You know you moved to Florida, right? Are you aware that that's where you went? They go on, I was very surprised that I was able to get a non-religious license plate with no extra charge. Yes, that part is a little surprising. You would think that you would have to pay more to have one that doesn't just say, I love Jesus, like on it, slathered across it.
Oh, wow.
Well, do we have some folks to thank?
We do indeed, Dan. We have a new patron over on Patreon, a new teacher by the name of Keely. So thank you so much for joining the priesthood.
Wonderful.
Hamana,
you have magic powers now.
There you go. And if you'd like to join Keely and all of our other patrons, you can do so. Go to our website, thankgodimatheist.com, and click on the support tab.
It's a nice thing to do. This is traditionally a time of year when there's a lull in patron support, and it's nice. It would be nice for people to help us counteract that lull and maybe find it within themselves to take a couple minutes out of their beautiful outdoor activities and just chuck a couple coins our way.
Indeed, Dan. And here's somebody who's been supporting the show for a long time. We had a little switcheroo happen with our top donor.
Ooh.
So it's a name from the past. Davis, our new Lord and Savior.
Woo!
Thanks so much, and stick around, everyone. There's more show coming up. Dan.
Yes, sir.
It's Pride Month in America.
Are you flying a rainbow flag at your house?
We do, yeah. Much and I basically am the HOA, but much to the chagrin of our CCNRs.
Oh,
I don't care.
Are you meant to not?
We're not allowed to put out signs and that kind of crap. It doesn't specifically say flags, but you're not allowed to attach anything to the building. So
we've got ours draped in a big window that we have on the inside of the house.
Yeah, that's a safe way of doing it. Even though that could be technically a curtain, and we do have rules in our CCNRs that allow the board to dictate the color of your curtains.
Oh my God! We don't. Man, HOAs can get a little on the nitpicky side.
Yeah, we do not enact that one. We do not use that rule. But nonetheless, we have a pride flag flying. It's we have it zip tied to our balcony railing. That feels like we're not violating anything.
There you go.
Yeah, it's Pride. We love Pride, and of course, the way that Pride intersects with our show is, a bunch of churchy folk not really liking the gays traditionally.
The entire need for gay pride, is just a bunch of religious ding-dongs. There would be no need.
Right. And to counteract that, there are things that happen around Pride and in general, just with gay people and religion. But as a news story in the Tribune caught my eye, the Salt Lake Tribune.
Salt Lake Tribune, yes.
Caught my eye about the interfaith service that was held at a local church for in honor of and in celebration of Pride. And
let me guess, it was the Unitarian Church.
No, it was First Baptist Church.
Oh, what?
I know. It's not like Southern. I don't think they're Southern Baptists. They're a kind of Baptist. Anyway, they hosted it, and if there were the Unitarians and whatnot, they had like a moment where they asked, where are the Unitarians? And a bunch of people stand up. Where are the Jews? And they stood up. And where are the so and so's? And they stood up. And apparently, as this was progressing, then a representative from those groups kind of got up and said something about being gay and pride and church and whatnot. And Jesus still loves you. And even though you're gay, he still has found a way to love you.
Even though you're disgusting and against the natural law and all laws of God and man, Jesus still will find a place.
He's all right with you. And so, but these kind of articles, there's the one reaction that I have, which is, well, good, right? Like, I like people finding acceptance, and I like the idea of people finding comfort and community. And this is important to these people, and they're hearing positive messages in a setting that is powerful and impactful for them, right? So
sure,
good. And then there's the other reaction that I have, which is just get the fuck out of church.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why? Like, don't give this thing that doesn't traditionally want you. I don't care that these few little groups have gotten together and decided, right? That,
that's nice.
Yeah. That's good. That speaks to the broader culture and just the fact that gay people are and transgender people are being more accepted now. But like, these are the institutions that are the problem, right?
Yeah.
And I mean,
and the fact that you found one of the good ones, quote unquote, maybe, doesn't really change the main issue.
Right. So
yeah, it's tricky. I think about, I want to be supportive of LGBTQ affirming churches because it is important. They are cultural touchstones and blah 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 blah. But yeah, I think your question is, why would you be a member of a group that's even remotely affiliated with other groups that would definitely hate you?
Right. And I mean, it's not just gay people who do this. You have like liberal Mormons, right? Who, I don't know, they're trying to change it from within. But the thing itself is fundamentally, I mean, we obviously as atheists see the broader fundamental flaws of religion and, religious thinking.
Right.
So, I mean, we're going to be quick to point that out, I guess. But I suppose that if you believe in God, you want to find some place to worship that God with like-minded folk. But
right. And there is yes, all of the things that churchgoers talk about. There are real things like, you do get a sense of community, and you do get a sense of I mean, especially if they're LGBTQ affirming, you'll feel like you're accepted there. Hopefully, even a lot of the supposedly LGBTQIA affirming churches don't do a very good job of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're going to find more acceptance at brunch. I promise you.
Right?
Like, go and brunch.
Go to the Pride Parade.
Yes.
And experience what real acceptance looks and feels like.
Yeah, right. Rather than this more, it's just shoehorning something in that just doesn't fit, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and there are still,
I know people want to believe that Jesus is like this all-loving figure and whatnot, but whatever.
But nope. Answer's nope.
I mean, not historically, right?
Yeah.
Followers of Jesus historically have not been that peaceful or loving.
Yeah.
So
he seems, they claim he said a bunch of nice stuff, but you wouldn't know it by how they've traditionally acted through the centuries. I'm in the Groucho Marx band where I wouldn't belong to a club that would have me for a member.
Yeah.
But also don't belong to a club that wouldn't have you for a member.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like even if they say they would have you for a member, even the really progressive ones, there's hidden misogyny in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's hidden LGBTQIA like non-acceptance in there. There's no way they got rid of all of it.
Right.
It's still there. I just don't get it. I mean, I do get it because it's a mind fuck and it's hard to unravel it.
Right.
But I do hope that people are able to unravel successfully. I think a lot of people just want to believe. You know, they like the idea of an all-loving God. I get that. I get why you might want that, why it feels nice.
Well, I mean, you never have to face the void the same way that you do if you just don't believe in God or an afterlife or whatnot. Like death is final and you're never going to see your loved ones again. And and
those are unpleasant thoughts.
Yeah. And, you know, there is no sort of innate loving nature to the universe. It's actually hostile. And we could be completely wiped out as a species basically at any moment, right?
And then who's going to name the galaxies?
Someone else will, right?
So, maybe the giraffes will eventually evolve to the point where they can name the galaxies. It'll be fine.
Amazing. Yeah.
Someone will take care of it. Well, get out there, friends. Go support your local gay things, your local trans things, your various and sundry queerness.
Yeah.
Get out there and enjoy Pride Month and have a great time. If you would like to tell us the ways in which you and your local faith community apparently are celebrating Pride, please feel free to write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist. Click the like button.
And if you'd like to join one of our members-only lounges, you can do so. Go to thankgodimatheist.com/members-only.
Thanks so much to the Red Rock Hot Club for the use of their fine music.
And thanks to Gordon Johnston for the use of his music.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you. Happy Pride!
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.